Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about Caro-Kann defense. So this is an opening that I have been playing since I was around 550 ELO. And before I switched to Caro-Kann opening, I was kind of stuck at that 550 to 600 ELO. I was not able to get past 600 barrier. And it was largely because I kept playing E5 whenever my white opponent played E4. So E4, E5 opening always led to very, highly tactical situations, lots of dynamic possibilities, and I would always screw up. I would always end up losing a pawn or a piece, or my position would get royally screwed. But ever since I started using Caro-Kann defense, I have been able to basically, get rid of all the problems. So I will show you what I mean by this. So this is a game that I just played with somebody who is close to 900 ELO rating on chess.com, and I was able to beat this guy. And I played Caro-Kann defense, obviously. So I will show you why I think Caro-Kann defense is an absolute gem of an opening for beginners. So if you are below 1000, I think you should always play Caro-Kann defense if you get an opportunity. Now, typically I used to respond with E5, and that would open up this diagonal, and this pawn became the center of attention. White would attack it by developing his bishop here. He would get his queen here, right? This is the scholar's mate, and then you have the possibility of fried liver attack. So a lot of nonsense, and you can get rid of all of that if you don't respond with E5. So respond with C6. In this match, white played d4 and I responded with d5. So, something like this. Now, this structure, what it does is, if you look at this pawn, this is protected by your queen, and this pawn is basically jamming this diagonal. So now if this bishop tries to come here, it cannot attack this pawn, and you kind of kill all the tactical, bullshit that white might try to pull on you. All of those are neutered with this, kind of pawn structure. So that's why I love Caro-Kann defense. The more fancy gambit style openings, they may deliver you victory, and the victory will be something like, think of a lion grabbing a gazelle by the neck and killing it instantly. But in Caro-Kann defense, you are not a lion. You are a snake. You are a python snake. So you grab your prey and you slowly squeeze the living daylights out of, your prey. So you kill them slowly. And trust me, it's a lot of fun when you do that. So it's not a very flashy style of winning, but I love, the way I get victories with Caro-Kann defense. So I will show you what I mean by that. So my opponent went with advanced variation, and I always push this pawn in advanced variation. There are other ways to play, but this is the one I like. So here what happens is your pawn is hanging actually. So white can in theory take it, but when white takes it, they kind of fuck their pawn structure, because now one pawn is here and one pawn is here, and you can attack both the pawns, and it's possible to win those pawns. So go ahead and push this pawn if you get advanced variation. So now my opponent comes here and gives me a check, and if I turn on the engine recommendation, I should have put my bishop here, and that way we could have neutralized, basically exchanged the bishop, and that would be beneficial for me because this bishop tends to suck in Caro-Kann defense. This bishop, if you put it here, sometimes white starts pushing their pawns trying to trap it. So it's better if you can exchange this bishop. So I should have played this, but instead I played my knight, and we had this exchange. Now this kind of messed up my pawn structure, and also this knight is really important because you use this knight to put pressure on these two pawns. Now my knight is gone, so I kind of screwed up here, but if you look at the engine evaluation, it's still pretty much smack in the middle. So now my opponent tries to preserve his pawn structure like this, which was fine. I get my bishop out. Stockfish kind of doesn't like it, but like I said, this bishop sucks anyway, and if you close your pawn chain, which is what I think Stockfish is recommending here. So yeah, Stockfish wants me to close my pawn chain, but then this bishop gets stuck here, which is also not very, so it sucks either way. So I got my bishop out. My opponent develops his knight in the corner, which I don't know why he did that. And then I close my pawn structure. So far so good. He gets his other pawn out. I decide to push this pawn here so that I have, so we have kind of locked the center. And I was talking about this at the beginning of the video. If the center is locked, then your opponent cannot really attack you. So as you can see, none of my pieces are developed here in the king side. And ideally, I want to develop my pieces in castle. But in Caro-Kann defense, a lot of times that's not what happens, because more activity is happening in the queen side. So you delay the castling. But your king is still safe because everything is kind of solid. So now this guy gets his queen here, and he's trying to put pressure on this pawn because right now this pawn is not protected. So this may look scary, but it's actually not scary. All I have to do is get my queen here and protect it. Next, my opponent moved his knight here, probably trying to capture my bishop, and I responded by getting my other knight developed. Now, this actually turned out to be a mistake, and the reason is that I could have put my bishop either here or here, right? Those two squares were safe, and he takes my bishop, which I think was a mistake, but it's okay. We exchanged that. Now my knight is here, and I can castle. So he castles, I get my bishop out. I'm not sure what he's doing with his knight, because he got his knight here, then he went back. Anyway, I castle. So far so good. Now he's getting his knight here, and I had a feeling that he will probably try to attack my king side, so he's going to get his knight. So I didn't want to exchange my knight, so I push it away. Stockfish thinks it's a mistake. Actually, Stockfish here was suggesting that I just take the knight, but I was like, no, I don't want to exchange my knight. He gets his queen here, so it's pretty obvious that he wants to attack my castle using his these two pieces and probably his knight. So in Caro-Kann defense, if your castle is under attack, the best option is to attack in the center. That's something that I have learned from other, better content creators on YouTube. And the recommendation that they all give is, if your castle is under attack, you attack in the center. So I push my pawn here. I want to get some kind of a break here. He pushes his pawn. He's trying to kick my knight. I go back to this square, which I think is fairly decent square, although it's not really protecting this pawn and this pawn. Ideally, you want your knight to be in knight f6. So this is kind of misplaced, but it is guarding these two squares, and yeah, it's not optimal, but it's fine. I'm not sure what this guy is doing. He has literally fianchettoed his knight, which is kind of weird. So I just take the pawn, and now we have a pawn break. Now, as soon as this happened, my eyes lit up, because this pawn is now a weak pawn, right? Nobody is guarding this pawn. So my goal from this point onward, and I was giving an analogy of a python snake. So my goal was to attack this pawn and these two pawns and somehow try to win them. And if I can win these pawns, then if I can push it forward, and if I can push this forward, I can basically make queens, and that would be a win for me. So this is not going to be some sexy tactical win, but this will be a slow and deliberate win, which is precisely how a python kills its prey. So that was my plan from this point onward. Now, to execute that plan, first thing I did was I moved my rook here. Stockfish doesn't like it, but in my past experience, I have learned that if your castle is under attack, then it's a good idea to have this bishop, like this square, empty, so that if this pawn is under attack, say for example, if he puts his bishop here trying to attack it, and say the queen is here, and if this gets pinned, that kind of situation can happen. So you can neutralize that threat by putting your bishop here. So that's what I was thinking. Obviously, Stockfish thinks I'm a moron, but that's what I did. Now this guy is still dancing around with his knight. I'm not sure what he's doing. So the next move was bring my queen here, because like I said, this pawn is where I want to focus my energy, and this pawn. So these two guys are my target. So he gets his knight to protect the pawn. I start pushing this pawn. I want to get till here and kind of have some kind of exchange, so that so that white has a isolated pawn here. That's my goal. So we keep going. I keep pushing. Now we are trying to put pressure here and pressure here. So this I can't take, because as you can see, this is defended. So right now I can't take it. So I decided to basically push this guy forward and try to create some pressure here. So that was so I have one defense here and one defense here. So from here the game became very interesting, because this guy gets his bishop here. He's trying to guard this square. Since this pawn was not going anywhere, so I decided to bring my rook in action here, so that I double up these two guys, put some pressure on this guy. And he is kind of blocking this, so that my pawn cannot go forward, and he's also guarding this square. So in that sense, it's a good move. So I decided I'm going to double my rooks here, and I will put all my pressure on this pawn. That was the plan. So he realizes it, so he brings his rook here. I double my rook, and now he gets his knight also. But the knight is not really guarding this square, right? So I have 3 pieces now lined up for this pawn, but he also has 1, 2, and 3 defenders. So I wanted to eliminate this bishop. So I thought, okay, I will get this guy here and get him here. And if we exchange, then, I remove one defender. So that's what I did. I got it here. In the meantime, he pushed his pawn. And I don't know what he's trying to do here, because I don't really see a threat here. So I completely ignored this. When he got here, I took it, and he got his rook here. Still, I don't see any threat, so I proceeded to exchange the bishop. Now one mistake my opponent did was he should have taken it with his pawn, because that would have exposed my queen to an attack from, you know, from the rook. So that probably was the better move, and that's what the engine is also suggesting here. But my opponent decided to take it with his queen. So once that happened, I pull my queen back. So I decided, okay, let's again focus on this pawn. If I can get this pawn, then this pawn is hanging, and you know, then I will be able to get more pawns. So I'm still trying to basically exploit the weakness here. Now my opponent makes a blunder at this point, and this is an example of what happens when you constantly apply pressure, especially in Caro-Kann, right? My opponent, obviously he's trying to break my castle. That's why he gets his queen here, because he's thinking if I double up, I will attack this pawn. So he is planning something like that, although here it will not work because my rook is protecting this pawn. But my point is that when you play Caro-Kann, sometimes you will frustrate white. Because white will have all these dynamic ideas, tactical ideas. They want to, you know, checkmate you. They want to execute all these cool tactics that they have learned. And none of them work because Caro-Kann defense is so solid that nothing works. So white gets frustrated. And all you have to do is just pinpoint the pawns. Sorry, not my pawns. Pinpoint your opponent's pawn. See which one of them are weak. Like for example, obviously this is a weak pawn because there is no other pawn guarding it. And you just pinpoint on these pawns. Similarly, this pawn is also weak. And you just go after these pawns. And what will happen is, at least in my personal experience, you know, around my ELO rating, which is below 1000, what I have noticed is that your opponent will invariably make a mistake. This queen is guarding this pawn. And so far it has done a good job guarding it. But now white got frustrated. He wanted to attack my castle. So he gets his queen here thinking I will do some kind of attack. And look what happens. Now this pawn is not protected. So I take this pawn. Added bonus is that also results in a check. He decides to, basically he's offering a queen exchange. And at this point, I noticed that if I exchange the queen, because I have so much pressure here on this side, I will actually win more pawns. So I said, fine, let's exchange queens. So that's what happened. And after that, I immediately took this pawn because, you know, if you look here, there is only one defender. And that was my whole idea. I was trying to pile up all the pressure on this pawn and this pawn. These two were my target from the beginning, and this fell, and as soon as this fell, I was able to take this one also. Now white, for some reason, comes here. I'm not sure what he's trying to do, but I also noticed that this knight is pinned, so the knight really cannot go anywhere, which means I will most likely be able to capture this pawn without much resistance. So I get here, I want to capture it. Now white, for some reason, he moved here, and then he realizes that this pawn is falling, so he comes back here. I think what white was thinking was that if I capture this, he's going to come and capture my rook, give me a check, and attempt some kind of back rank checkmate. But he forgot that this knight was pinned, which means nobody is protecting this rook. So that was a mistake from my opponent, and I just captured his rook. So now my opponent is completely fucked and he resigned. And this was a very satisfying victory because my opponent was almost 900 ELO rated player. So I felt very proud of winning this because I used the basic Caro-Kann principle, which is don't try to be a lion. Don't try to grab the neck of your opponent and snap it quickly. Instead, be a python. Slowly squeeze your opponent and, extract the living, basically squeeze the life out of your opponent. You are like a snake. You are slowly curling up, slowly squeezing your prey, and death will come slowly and very painful death. So that's what happens when you play Caro-Kann defense. I am now close to 850 ELO. So from 550, I have gained almost 300 ELO points. And I was looking at my chess.com profile and I noticed that I had like 81% victory rate whenever I played Caro-Kann defense as black. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that don't think that Caro-Kann is for experts or people who are good. If you are a beginner like me, I started playing Caro-Kann when I was 550 ELO. I think every beginner should give Caro-Kann defense a try because it's going to elevate your game. And the best part is, below 1000, most people don't know how to respond to Caro-Kann. So so you kind of throw them off as soon as the game starts because they expect you to respond with E5 when they play E4 and you play C6. So they are kind of like, what the fuck is this? So it also has a psychological effect on your opponent because they you throw them out of their, they are no longer in their comfort zone. They are in uncharted territory. So that seems to work. And by the way, if you are wondering where can I learn Caro-Kann, I will recommend this guy. He's a YouTuber, Chess Geek, and he has this free master class on YouTube, completely free. You don't have to pay him anything. And I think this is the best Caro-Kann material. It's better than Gotham Chess. It's better than every other resource that I have seen on YouTube. This kid, he probably has made the best Caro-Kann video for beginners and even intermediate players. So he covers everything like advanced variation, fantasy variation, Tartakower variation. He goes in depth. You will have to watch these videos multiple times. I have been watching these videos for the last 3-4 months now. I always come back and watch again because there is so much information he has packed in. But the best part about these videos is that he doesn't just give you the moves, because that anybody can give you. He actually explains the logic behind why you are making those moves. So you kind of get an idea of how you are supposed to play in Caro-Kann. So like in this game, I spotted those 2 pawns here, right? So if I go back here, you remember these, I said that, you know, this pawn and this pawn is the weakness and I need to attack that. So this kind of pattern recognition, like you identifying your target when you are playing Caro-Kann, that kind of insight you will get if you watch his videos. This kid is really good. So I will drop a link to his entire, he has created a playlist. So definitely check out his video if you want to learn Caro-Kann. So let me know what you think of Caro-Kann defense. Let me know if you have tried it and what your success rate has been. I hope you found this video useful. Next, why don't you guys click here and watch this video, and I will see you again in my next one. Bye.